Greetings everybody, Gentleman94 here. Welcome back to Sci-Fi Wednesdays and our continuation on the Viper Mk VII. This is a pretty good day today. We're going to be putting this fuselage together. We have the top half here. We'll just move this out of the way. I've done a little work off camera. For example, we have painted up and assembled our little pilot guy. Is going to be Apollo from the show. Yeah, it's decent enough. I don't really paint figures very well, so this is kind of a first for me. So I don't know. It's going to be okay. It's going to be the 3-foot rule. Put him aside for right now. He's still kind of drying. This is the cockpit that I've come up with. As you can see here, I've got kind of a makeshift decal setup going on here with our front head-up displays and, you know, all of our instrument panels and things like that. And what I did actually to make these is I went online and I found pictures of the actual Battlestar Galactica model that they made for the show. But yeah, I just went ahead and I printed up those images, resized in Photoshop, and printed them up through Microsoft Word. Then I just upped the contrast, upped the brightness a little bit, and glued them onto the makeshift decal area that we had made from our last episode when we scratched up the flight control center. So I mean, it looks decent enough. It's not 100% perfect, but I think it's gonna be passable. It's gonna get us to the next phase in this model kit. So we're just gonna go ahead and focus today on getting these two halves of the fuselage together. That's kind of my goal, to get this thing looking like a Viper Mk VII. And we will go ahead and glue up a couple last little bits and pieces from the flight control center, like the rear bulkhead and the seat. Get that pilot in there. And we're going to go ahead and hit some of the areas like the inside of the fuselage, the rear bulkhead here, the cockpit, and also the chair with this German gray here. So we'll go ahead and load up the airbrush and just go ahead and give them a quick coat of the paint. I think I'm also going to clean up my mess here because you've seen all these scratch-built, you know, pieces of styrene laying all over the place. You can see here, this is a piece of paper that I have a couple of test prints for these different areas, like the head-up display. And I just sized them and glued them to there and cut them with just some plain old scissors. So, turned out all right. Okay, so we have our German gray here, and I want to load up the airbrush. And this is actually already kind of pre-thinned. I've used it on multiple builds. So I just kind of tossed the thinned paint back in, and it's already thin, so I don't need to thin it. We're just going to get a light, quick coat here on the underside of the fuselage, kind of the main body area. And I'm not sure how much is going to be visible once we have that canopy closed, but I'm assuming we're going to be able to see some of it. So, like I said, we're just going to give this a light spray here around the edges so that kind of all matches the uniform color. There we go. I'm spraying at approximately 15, a little less than 15 psi. And this is already kind of thinned paint. I'm having a couple of passes just to make sure that it adheres to it all. I actually hit it with some primer before I did anything else, so it should have a nice bit of bite into that paint. But yeah, we'll see how it holds up when I start putting that cockpit in there and kind of wiggling around. So yeah, looking pretty good though. I always like German gray. I'm kind of going off pictures and images of the cockpit as it was in Battlestar Galactica. So in the show, it appears to be kind of a darker color, whereas in the instructions, it doesn't really tell you to paint that. It tells you to kind of go with a lighter gray. So this is kind of my own artist interpretation of what I think the colors look like, based on stills and things from the show. Is it 100% correct? Probably not, but I think it's going to be just fine for what we're doing. And again, we're just going to give the rear bulkhead a nice shot of this German gray. This is actually a textured piece, so there's little valleys kind of scribed into it. Now, I didn't do that. It came that way. But we're going to have to make a couple passes from multiple angles to go ahead and get this all uniformly colored and covered. But it shouldn't be too bad. Again, I'm using just standard Tamiya paint, thinned down with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, 70% isopropyl, and I'm spraying at about 15 psi. This isn't anything that fancy. It's just a basic general top coat, you know. Let's get that chair while I'm at it. Just touch up a few little scuffs that I'd made. And on the back side here. Man, I tell you, painting that pilot was not an easy thing to do. I don't do figures a lot, so all of that brand new learning curve for me. But I think it's going to be all right. All right, so we've got all those pieces painted up, and we have kind of reassembled the instrument panel and the tub area here, dropped the pilot inside. I think it looks pretty good, guys. I don't know about you, but I think it's just going to work just fine. I used this bronze copperish type color for the shoulder pads, and then I covered the helmet in this gold with a bit of clear yellow top coat to give it kind of a nice brighter tone to it. And yeah, I don't know how accurate it is, but it looks pretty close. It looks the part. Definitely. So yeah, just goes to show you what a little styrene and some paper can do, right? Let's go ahead and test fit this up into the top side of the fuselage. See how it looks, see how it fits. Yeah, it looks good. Looks very good. I mean, considering what was in there before and to this, I think it's a definite improvement. So now we have to go ahead and start assembling the top and bottom halves of the fuselage together. So that's going to be a little challenging, but I think we're going to be all right with it. We have to secure the cockpit tub as well. So we're going to probably do that now. And I want to drop a little bit of glue on the seat too and make sure that it's nice and secured. All right, so remove the pilot here. I did a little work and glued the bulkhead on, made sure it was all nice and stuck together, and we're going to go ahead and assemble that cockpit and drop it into the top part of the fuselage. And you can see the paint is dry and we're ready to start assembly. So this is a pretty big step for us for this model. It's going to be nice to go ahead and get this thing looking like a Viper. Let's pull out all the pieces we're going to need. I actually airbrushed the rear engine assembly. I hit it with a German gray, and then I went over it with a non-buffable steel from the Testors Model Masters line. Didn't really work. I was hoping to get a little bit more variation, but the paint was kind of old. Didn't turn out very well. So I'll just weather it up and we'll make it work. So let's go ahead and let's see what we need to do. This is our parts here. We've got our cockpit, top, bottom half fuselage, rear engine decking, and engine cluster. Let's go ahead and grab the bottom part of the fuselage. Right here, there are some stamped letters and things here. We want to go ahead and remove these because it's just the kind of a trademark for the kit itself. I know of a couple other model manufacturers that do this. Revell and Monogram are the two ones that pop into my mind. They like to print their name on the plastic. I don't know why they do that, because we inevitably end up just taking it off anyway. People like companies like Hasegawa or Tamiya, they tend to print theirs on the inside where you don't really see them. So I don't really know who made that decision over at Monogram, Revell, or even here at Mobius. Doesn't matter though, we're just going to take some sanding sticks, here in this case my jeweler files, we're just going to file it right off. We don't need it to be there. A couple of swipes is just all we need really. So that looks very, very nice. Alright, let's go ahead and start assembly. I wanted to point out a couple of things. First off, the rear section right here on the wings, that's actually an intake. If you look at the actual studio model, those aren't there. So that's kind of confusing. And also up in the nose here, you might have noticed that we are actually missing a few thruster ports. We should have 4 additional, 2 on each side. They aren't there, so we might have to drill those in at a later date. But let's go ahead and start assembling these things. I want to go ahead and get this little quick sand here. Got a little paint here. I don't want it to interfere with anything. Let's go ahead and get this assembled, and then we'll see what else we can do. The cockpit is ready to go, so let's go ahead and just drop that in here. And then we'll just put a little bit of glue. Make sure that it's all nicely adhered. So, fits well. Drops right in there. Not a problem, really. So, the cockpit is securely glued into the top part of the fuselage. And looking pretty good, I might add. It's just a quick adjustment on the seat right there. I want to make sure this is lined up evenly. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Okay. So, like I said, now that this is pretty much adhered and ready to go, let's go ahead and assemble the top and bottom halves together. So what we're going to need here is just a quick dry fit, just to see how this all kind of clicks together. Some of the locating pins are kind of tough to kind of push together, and it makes a lot of clicking sounds and creaks and all sorts of crazy sounds. But hopefully that won't happen once we get this glued together. This, of course, being the rear engine decking, is going to go somewhere about here. That's somewhere. I think it's going to look cool. So we don't need it right now, though. Let's just go ahead and concentrate on the fuselage and the wings. So I'm going to start at the front here, and I'm just going to drop some extra thin cement into the locating holes here for the locating tabs. I'm going to get all of these nicely ready and prepped for glue. And then we're just going to go ahead and hit the side and the back ones as well. There we go. Back, it's on the other side of the wing. Right there. That's good, and make sure these are good. Okay, cool. So now let's go ahead and start at the nose section. I'm just going to place these locating pins together. Make sure they all kind of snap into place. Yeah, yep, looks pretty good. It's clicking together nicely. Yeah. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of plastic welder, I think. We're going to want to work just, small section by small section. Starting with the nose, we're going to work our way down the left side of the fuselage and then down the right side. And make sure those wings are nicely adhered. Make sure the nose is close together. I don't want a lot of seams or anything. So I'm going to go ahead and just work our way down the left and right side of the fuselage. Okay guys, so I'm back and I have worked my way down all of the sides of the fuselage here. And it looks pretty decent. The wings are a little finicky, a little temperamental on the wing joints, but I think it's going to be alright. So now, since the top half and the bottom half are glued together, let's go ahead and get this engine glued into the engine decking. And we're just going to take this engine cluster here, just going to drop it into the back, and we're going to drop some plastic welder down right in between the two pieces. That should help quite a bit to keep this thing nice and secure. We're also going to need to drop some plastic welder down here on the back of the Viper itself. There are 3 locating tabs. One there, and one right here. So we want those 3 to be nice and filled with glue. And now this should, if I'm not mistaken, fit down right about here. It's a little bit of a tight squeeze. Doesn't quite click together as easily as I'd like it to. There we go. Alright. So that is together. Oh, look at this. It looks like a Viper. We're going to have to do a little bit of extra gluing, though, because there's a nice seam that is kind of shown up between the connection points here. And so I want to go ahead and drop some plastic welder in there just to make sure that that's secure. The engine looks pretty good in there. Needs weathering badly, but that's cool. We'll get to that later. Let's drop a little bit of this plastic welder in between here. And about there. That's going to be kind of a rough area to go ahead and take care of. We definitely are going to need to take some styrene strips and go ahead and shove them in between the top engine decking, the bottom engine decking, and then the wing joint. That's got quite a big gap there, so we're going to need to backfill that with something. Styrene works well enough as anything, really, and I think I like it better than most other things. So we'll cut a couple strips of that and kind of wedge those in the holes. But other than that, not too bad. The fit is decent. Let's go ahead and move on and see what else we got. Okay, so we've got the engine glued together. We've got the wings on, the fuselage together. The last step is this rear vertical stabilizer. So let's go ahead and drop some plastic welder here on the locating tab and along the bottom of it here. There we are. And right there. Good, good. And let's go ahead and drop this down in the locating area here. Excellent. Looks great. That. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's pretty decent. Little adjustment, not too much. You can kind of get an idea. Look at that. Now, that's a mean-looking Viper. Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and call it here, guys. We've actually done quite a bit of work here. And next time we'll come back, we got to add the gun ports and mask up that canopy, and then we got to start painting this guy. So here you are, guys. We have a mostly assembled Viper Mark VII. At least it looks like a Viper. And I'm really excited to see where we can go from here. So thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you back here next week on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. Till then, keep modeling. We'll see you soon.